Hello and welcome back to JLXP, episode 55, and also the third day in a row that Mark and I are coming to you live. This is a unprecedented streak of JLXP episodes, unprecedented guest streak as well. This is like your sixth episode in a row. It's impressive.
Yeah, I feel honored. I'm about to rip off the G24-0 accepted boom today.
Mark's JLXP streak is now longer than G2's win streak by a lot, actually.
Oh shit!
Yeah, congratulations. Quick update as well for people that have been asking about my health. I feel fine, but the government thinks I'm a menace to society, so I must stay in my hotel room, and they have told me that I must stay here because my COVID is still testing positive. It's only about day 7 or 8 though, so I know it is possible to test positive for like months on end, but it's more likely that I'll start testing negative in the next couple days, and then I'll be able to go back to the US. But that's not why you're here. You're here to talk about G2 losing.
Of course.
The last few days we've been talking about G2 winning. Mark, did you see Patrick Beverley go on ESPN like 3 or 4 days ago? Did you catch any of that?
No, but I heard about it. People were copy pasting some stuff he said already, I guess.
It was the most, it was such a successful gambit by ESPN, but also just like the dark path that sports media is going down. So basically Patrick Beverley is this, like, he's a good defender, but like a mid-tier NBA player, just like really loud and one of those like pests, like super annoying defenders. And he has this like hatred of Chris Paul. Like literally last year in the playoffs, as Chris Paul eliminated his Clippers team, he shoved him in the back and got ejected from the game. Like that's how much he doesn't like Chris Paul. So a year ago, then Chris Paul loses in Game 7 to the Mavericks. Like Patrick Beverley's not involved at all, and then they just have him on as a guest analyst for like 6 hours. Like he's just on every ESPN show, just slandering the shit out of Chris Paul for like 6 hours.
He's the origin of he tricked y'all, man, right? Is that him?
Yeah, that's what Russell Westbrook said about Patrick Beverley, because he was also annoying Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
And Westbrook hates him because Beverley like flopped into Westbrook's knee in a playoffs once and like fucked up his knee, and Westbrook missed like a year. So there's like a real reason Westbrook hates him. But anyway, It was like he was comparing it to like, yeah, Steph Curry, I get a good night's rest if I'm going to go play Steph Curry. If I'm going to play Chris Paul, like, it doesn't matter. This guy sucks. Like, I don't even, like, just for hours and hours. Exactly. So that's what we're going to do to G2 today, is we're just going to be Patrick Beverley and talk about how they've never been good. No, that's not what we're doing. But that could be a podcast topic in the future. Let's discuss G2 in general, though. The upset loss to PSG. Yesterday I said, actually, that I thought their first loss was going to be against RNG, but I was wrong, partially wrong. Their second loss was against RNG. But let's start with the PSG game. What are your thoughts?
I feel like I wasn't watching this one that closely, admittedly, because I thought there was going to be a string of games in the middle that
didn't matter.
That were going to be all the minor region teams losing, and then this one mattered.
Yeah.
So at least like the parts that I saw, it looked like G2 were doing kind of fine, and then they got one bad team fight, and the game just kind of ended.
Yeah. So I watched it more closely. I feel like for the majority of the tournament, and also the majority of their run through the LEC, to oversimplify what they've been doing, even though they've been like creative and they've been able to like manufacture good team comps in lanes, they've just had better scaling almost every single time. And in this game, it felt like they didn't have better scaling. And as simple as it can be, it's like part of that is just Ornn and Tristana. Like literally just those two champions, because G2 did have Callista bot, which had a pretty bad day, all things considered. I think pretty much every time I see Tristan to Callista, I feel way more comfortable if I'm the Tristana team, because the lane seems good enough and the scaling seems a lot better. And every time I see Ornn, I see that champion just being kind of ridiculously overpowered. I don't quite understand why we're not seeing it every game.
Yeah, I'm. So we can talk the whole entire meta of this tournament too, because it
Yeah.
just seems anytime there's anything that's not team fighting, I'm like, this looks worse.
Yeah,
um,
actually, which is not necessarily like always true, but that's definitely the feel. It's definitely the feel that's developing.
yeah, like some of the game, like even the game that T1 won, you're like, wouldn't that have been easier if you could just team fight them easily with
Hmm.
like engage and front to back?
Hmm.
This G2 comp for me is still a team fight with the option to 1-3-1. It's not like Aatrox and LeBlanc can't team fight,
Yeah.
but it's a lot harder than fucking Sandra, Ornn, Rel.
Yeah.
Like, that is the fucking most face roll,
The
engage, kill
the
somebody, and win the fight.
the damage is low with the Rel,
Yes.
Lissandra, Ornn. What was their jungle pick again on PSG? I don't have it
Lee
in front of
Sin.
me. Yeah,
Just Lee
so
Sin.
it's like it definitely requires Trist to get to her items, but they were unable to hard punish the Trist. I thought partially just because like if you're gonna play Aatrox into Ornn, you need to get like probably 50 CS up and kill the turret pretty early, and then Aatrox can like roam around the map and basically make it so the other AD carry can't deal with the Aatrox. I think that's part of what makes it strong when it works. That just didn't happen though. And
Yeah.
and then for like the RNG game, if we're gonna continue on G2, that one was almost like Caps' laning phase was still very good, but they had a few things in that game go just a little bit wrong, where a lot of their other games have had things going just a little bit right. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I think, I mean, I think you can also say this has been some of their worst drafts in air quotes in the tournament. Like, I don't think there's anything horrendously wrong about them, but like the
Yeah.
Broken Blade, no flash, like everyone's been talking about it.
Sure,
Again, it's a
Flashless
very,
Riven.
Flashless Riven is again very frail comp where it's like Yumi, Ezreal combined with fighters and all the other positions. So like you just don't have any lockdown CC engage options. And I feel like you're talking about with the Ornn for G2 and stuff, or even some of the other picks. I mean, they've had done a lot of fighters where like target misses on Pike or whatnot, but I feel like against the really good, I don't know, it just feels like it's harder to execute these comps and they weren't as clean today.
Yeah, what do you think of this? This always kind of happens with G2. And I think a lot of it is just like fandom and people memeing and having fun. But like when G2 wins, it feels like they win because they're better. But when they lose, it's because that's just what they do. Like, and it's kind of this trolly fun. Oh, we into draft. Craps. Should there be any? Do you think there should be any concern about G2, or is this just kind of like a natural thing, and they should still be considered a very real contender to win the tournament?
I think they should still be considered a real contender. I think the idea that they had become the favorites after 2 days was all of us getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
24-0 win streak felt good, but it is still best of ones against the other top teams right now. And early in the tournament, people are going to change and adapt. So like it's still a 3-horse. It was a 3-horse race coming in with G2 probably as the dark horse. Then it felt like they were the leading horse, and now they're back to like everyone's got the same chances. Like that's kind of how I feel over the course of like pre-tournament towards now.
Yeah, I think that's like the correct measured take. I do think that coming into the tournament, I was still like in my head. Let's just go back like a month before they went on their 12-0 streak in the playoffs, and this is going to be a little bit similar for EG as well. Like, it didn't look like they were very good 2 months ago when they were 11-7 in fourth place in Europe and losing all these. Like, they dropped, what was it, like a 10,000 plus gold lead against Misfits and lost that game. They actually get dropped out of the playoffs against Fnatic. And then obviously they make this amazing run. And for those of you who like just kind of go to sleep and wake up when it's international tournament again, which is actually a lot of fans, you see G2 and you see Caps and you just think that it's been this smooth road this whole time. But it really hasn't been. So I think even though they've improved a bunch as a team, it just like knowing how teams in League of Legends work, like that improvement isn't permanent just because you played well for a little while. So there's a very real chance they can regress to some of the things that they struggled with during the regular season. And I think the same could be true for EG, where this team was 9-9, which is, I've said it before, the worst record of any LCS team to ever represent NA at an international event, like MSI or Worlds. Like there's never been a 9-9 team that makes it this far. But they improved so much throughout playoffs. They had all those 3-0s. So you see them as like the best NA has to offer. It's interesting to think about it. I do think that EG is the best NA has to offer right now, and I think G2 is the same. But the difference between 1, 2, and 3 isn't massive. Should I go on too big of a tangent? You're laughing.
No. I have a couple things to respond to.
Okay, cool.
But the last thing you said reminded me of one. So the first thing is, I think, and we can debate who's your favorite now to actually win, but I think RNG of those 3 teams feels maybe like the biggest threat.
Yep.
I think what you said about EG, it's not just that they were tournament lock-in favorites. Like they made finals.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
And then they became mediocre. And then they became, I think they're just kind of a streaky team.
They were up and then they were down and then they were up. It's not like they were down the whole time and then up for EG.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and they had, it's not just that they were 9-9, they had never beaten one of the other top 3 teams. They had also never won more than 2 games in a row. You know, it was like this team that was just the ultimate like meh. And then they had like they were scrim gods though. So like that's why I think what you said about them being the best team in NA isn't wrong, in case people are worried about like, oh no, they just got hot. I think,
and actually even when they were 9-9, they were very consistent at beating teams worse than them, which is very good for this best of 1 format when they have to win both games against PSG and both games against Saigon Buffalo. They were already 2-0 against Saigon Buffalo, and they'll have one more against PSG, but it's not going to be until day 5. Tomorrow they play. Day 5 is the memes are bad. Day 5 is PSG G2. Tomorrow's T1 RNG.
Oh fuck! So like the funny thing too is PSG beating G2 sets up us to get fucked over by dropping a single game to them. You know,
correct. It's like, if it's 1-1, there'd be a good chance PSG would then be 4-6 and just go through. Yep.
There's someone in one of the Reddit comments was like, G2 just finding new ways to fuck over NA when they lost to PSG. So that's a little concerning.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the other teams though, because I liked your topic of best team at MSI from what we've seen, because we saw G2, T1, RNG all go completely undefeated through the mess of group stage, and now they've been trading games with one another. RNG beating T1 yesterday, RNG going 1-1 against G2, and then G2 T1 going to be happening again tomorrow as well. And I think getting a little bit more of a defined identity for both of the teams, and like I actually really enjoyed the fan reactions to T1 versus PSG today, because that was a messy game.
Yeah,
that was a flippy game. The one tweet I had was like, man, this 35 ping is just making T1 flip every single game at Baron. Like, what is going on?
Oh, dude, I think of the 3 teams that are in this race, and we're talking about like the jockeying for a position, even though T1 went 2-0 today, it could not have been a less convincing 2-1 or 2-0, excuse me. We're like, Gumayushi looked pretty terrible both games. He was getting picked on by EG's bot lane, which had not been great. And I mean, Danny threw again, and maybe we'll go back to EG in a little bit. But that combined with that game versus PSG, which like with an 8K goal lead, struggling to close out, flipping at Baron, just like shenanigans ensuing. It was like, yeah, you are definitely insanely good, but God, some of the things you do are worrying. So I think while G2 did go 0-2, T1 went 2-0. It's like actually like, I don't know, didn't bother me that much.
Yeah, I would say that I'm still pretty convinced that this is just the way T1 is, and it's the way that they've been all year. And because there's such small sample size and only seeing them in 2 games a day against 2 different major regions, and because the flips haven't looked very good, that people are thinking they're like these brainless animals. But like I think they can play this way and win MSI. I don't think they need to to like suddenly start picking more scaling. Like it's a valid strategy to just pick to smash your lanes and go 7,000 gold up without taking dragons in the first 20 minutes.
I'd also argue that they might have the worst drafts in the meta if our opinion on the meta is correct, which is like team fighting seems
If team
way
fighting
more
is
valuable.
actually better. Yeah.
Yeah, because they keep going kind of splitty, kind of skirmishy based stuff, and it just looks so hard for them to close out. There's a world where the meta is team fighting. They're off the meta. They adapt, and then they become significantly better because they seem the furthest away. G2 and RNG sometimes split away from it, but like everyone splits away sometimes. But I don't know. T1 in particular seems not fond of just like meatball roaming death comp kind of play style right now.
Okay, let's do a power ranking right now for 1, 2, and 3 of MSI. Do you want mine first?
Let's do our number ones. Let's one at a time unveil.
Okay. My number one.
The same.
My number one is T1.
Okay, you're fucking trolling. My number one's RNG.
You're just going off the standings, Mark. This is not a standings ranking. This is a power ranking. I think.
Hold on, what are the actual? I don't even know what the rankings
are. RNG is in first, and then T1 and G2 are in second. But G2 currently holds the head-to-head, so they're in second, and then T1 will be in third. Okay. But basically, I'm not even saying T1 is going to be first seed at the end of group stage. I just think, unironically, they're better in best ofs, and they will be able to win all of the best of fives.
I think.
You think it's RNG? Why?
I think it's RNG. I think they are also a terrible matchup for T1. I think even beyond what's happening in this tournament with Guma looking bad and Gal looking like the best bot laner in the league, like I think T1, these problems that you're talking about with their like kind of flippy play style, that's been consistent for a little bit now. RNG is a great macro team actually. Like Xiaohu and Ming and like the team actually plays mid to late game extremely well. And I think in a best of 5, while T1 is a better series team, RNG is really good at like these scrappy situations. So while they are very close, I give an edge to like RNG's team play. And I think the savior would be Zeus crapping, like Bin just blowing up for the series. I think that can still happen, but like, or like maybe Guma recovers and I don't know. But I think I have RNG favored in a series versus T1 right now for that reason.
I think if you were to take your, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, your normal ideas of what LPL LCK verse should look like, it's flipped with these two teams.
Yeah.
RNG is actually like the smarter, better team comps, slightly more controlled game. And T1 is actually just taking every possible fight they can. And like they did it like 2 times again today. It almost feels like every single game they're going to start Baron with everyone alive on the map. They just love that shit. Like they're just they want to fight.
And the funny thing is about it too, like I actually don't mind that, just like force a reaction, but they like kind of commit to it, you know, like they don't just start it and like, do you have wards on us?
You
they're
think
also like, well,
they're not messing around. Like they're gonna flip it.
We'll do it, you fuckers. I mean, even against EG today, you know, to maybe go back onto EG a little bit, like I thought EG were looking decent that game. And then like I think that they had the nameplates on, like, holy shit, we're playing T1, and they fucking killed Danny that one time, and EG just like rolled over and died because Inspire just like fucked off out of that. He got forced out of that fight, to be fair, but like, I mean, kind of just gave up. Inspire didn't do anything from that game onwards.
I think that game was actually pretty close, the EG T1 game, but like the way I've seen this happen to AD carries many times, but like Danny's team was clearly already moving to River. Danny was just trying to get a little bit of poke off. Carrier gets him with a hook, and like the game is just over. But if he was playing like less on limits, you can very easily give this point and be like, just follow the team. They're fine, right? And then the game is decided by them moving into River. But like the pushback of that is, well, you have to be able to play on limits. Like you have to be able to get the poke off. It's going to help eventually. I'll just dodge the hook next time, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a game losing play.
Also, Core JJ tweeted, I don't know if you saw
Oh,
it,
that was
but I
so
was
good.
thinking the same thing. Because
Yeah.
even before that play, I was looking at that play and I was like, please, for the love of God, do not shoot your Bard ult at Nautilus. He will buffer the hook. Like, carry is too good. You will not kill the Nautilus. And it's so tempting for Bards to just shoot their ult at the weakest person for a pick at the start of a fight. And they fucking shoot at the carry and he buffers his hook and ends up behind the turret and it just stuffs the Bard engage. And I'm like, I knew they were going to do that. And then the Core JJ tweets, EG could engage on GP who has no flash. Danny could not get hooked. Vulcan could use his portal faster. Impact and JoJo could block the Silas E for Danny. Inspire could believe in his teammates.
Yeah.
I saw it. We won.
It was in the multiverse.
It was so true that there were so many like little misplays within that sequence beyond like the big one of Danny getting hooked.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just disappointing because I think EG was playing that game very well. And to that point, they were down gold, you know, like I thought their comp could actually win fights if played well and stuff.
Are you familiar with the Peter Dunn tweet? Or it wasn't a tweet, it was like a Reddit comment.
About
Danny's
ping,
play
that's
style.
just his play style.
So
oh
I
my
need to
God.
I actually want to talk about this. So
okay.
I think it was a Reddit comment. And I understand why it's so super memeable. Peter Dunn is basically trying to like stick up for Danny's poor play. And this was when they were losing to G2 in the original group stage, like part of the 4 losses in a row. And he said, I don't have it in front of me, but it was something like Danny's playstyle doesn't work on 35 ping. It's a lot better on like 0 ping. And then the majority of people who see this are like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is the stupidest thing you can say.
Well, and he said like you can tell just by watching his
oh yeah, like the way he's clicking.
You can tell by watching his solo queue, you know, like
oh yeah, because he's like,
God.
oh, he's just so much better in so I just want to break down. I don't know if breaking down it. I understand where he's coming from, but I don't think it reflects positively on his view of Danny as a player. Are you following me?
I'm not sure. Take me all the way.
Okay. So, if you're going to say, and I'm going to bring another player into this, Gumayusi, who's having a really bad tournament. And also the way T1 is just like a hands team. If you just rely on like your innate ability to outplay, which is standing in threat range of a lot of things and either dodging or flashing things at the last second, that is going to be less effective on 35 ping. And obviously it's true for everyone, but there are also players who have good team fights because they position well. They will be, quote, less impacted by having diminished hands with ping. So if I'm going to try and take this as truth and not just a meme, what Peter Dunn is saying is Danny only has hands. So it's really bad that his hands don't work.
I mean, what you're saying is not necessarily wrong because Danny is like a very mechanical player.
Yeah.
But it's also just like I love Peter Dunn. He's a great friend of the show. But it's just kind of
I'm a huge fan of
like
Peter Dunn too because he's so active on social media and he actually has done a lot to improve like and fight against narratives that will otherwise get you shit on. And this could actually be one of those things. Like people be like, haha, 35 ping doesn't matter. Like, well, sometimes it does actually impact some players more than others, unironically. And Danny is one of those players. The levels are very debatable, right? It's not like the 35 ping is making him like miss a ton of CS. That happened on low ping too. But yeah, there's more to it.
Yeah, it's like I get it, but it is a total like you're sticking up for your player, whatever. But it's such a copium take. It's just like, dude, it affects everyone mostly the same. Like there are it'll affect some players more than others, but like there's a lot of mechanical players, especially marksmen, who are kind of brain off and they just click heads, you know, like. And it's been such a funny copy pasta. I feel bad for Danny. I feel like Danny.
Yeah.
Jojo Pune has put the spotlight on himself in a lot of ways through like his shit talk and whatnot. And like Danny's actually like a really mild mannered player.
Yeah.
And through no fault of his own, this spotlight has like been thrust on him. He's underperforming worse than Jojo. I actually think I continue my point. I think Jojo's actually quite good this tournament.
I looked up a stat.
He has a lot of good stats actually.
Jojo has the most kills plus assists at 15 of all players of Rumble Stage. More than anyone on T1, anyone on RNG, anyone on G2. Flacket is actually the lowest, weirdly enough. There's my G2 slander for the day. No context. Flacket's the lowest, even though he's been playing way better than Danny. I agree with you on your Danny take, though. Like, I actually feel like the pressure on him is super, super high. A lot of that is because he performed so well in finals, and for most of the split, he didn't actually have these expectations. Everyone in NA was talking about Berserker and Hansama and FBI as the 1, 2, 3, and then Danny was fourth, like the fourth best AD carry. And because he had such a great playoffs, it's now like, oh yeah, watch out for this Danny guy. Like, he's the next great thing. And if he's short of those expectations, like, I imagine it can be super stressful for him. So if you guys want to see Danny do well, I'd say just send him some good messages. Build him up.
Yeah,
tell him he's doing well.
It was the Pentakill hype. It was the playoff run. It was like people wanting to believe in NA talent. It was Jojo Pune talking shit. It was this thing by Peter Dunn. And all Danny has said this entire time is like, I'm just looking forward to competition. I'm underperforming a little bit. I'm sorry, guys. Like, he's just been nice. Speaking of sending people nice things, Dracos has been trying to tell you to check your DMs in Twitch chat for a long time. So people are speculating he's sent you nudes or something. So if I don't know if it's relevant to the show to check now.
I mean, Dracos is a bro, and I'm sorry about this, but he has offered to do my laundry because I'm not able to. So I guess he might be here. I should go deal with that. I'm also out of topics. If you are out of topics.
I can always
while you think about
more.
topics, I'm gonna go see if he's outside. 1 second.
Okay, you go do that. I'll fill in a little bit more. I think for EG, Inspired has, as much as I was just kind of saying that I was disappointed by the end of his T1 game, has been maybe the best performer on the team. Vulcan looked better today. His Bard was good. His Alistar was good. It feels like there is yet to be a game versus he said in Twitch chat he is outside your room. Nice. I feel like the team has not ever like hit on all cylinders at the same time. Maybe like Danny was getting caught out a little bit in the Vulcan game where he was playing well and that kind of threw. And then I don't know. There's been games where Impact plays well or explodes.
Dracos was watching the show in the hall on his phone for like 10 minutes.
So he had been telling you to check DMs for a while, but I assumed he had it was not like I'm standing outside your door. I think, no offense to Dracos, but he should have impressed the urgency of reacting to him a little more.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm going to mod you. And he was like, sweet, thanks.
Just so everyone knows, put it in a different bag. He didn't touch my bag of clothes. We're all good. But yeah, do you have any other topics you want to talk about? I hope that you did a good job filling for the minute that I just
rambled about EG. I feel like
nice.
Do we owe PSG a story? Do we owe talking PSG from their perspective a little bit?
I think a little bit, because there's still a really good chance that they make it to knockout stage. Like
realistically, it's just BEG.
They are not bad. Like, and the Azael asked for this stat, and I think he probably used it on broadcast as well. But the like all-time NA versus LMS at international events was like 22-10 in favor of NA, and then PCS was like 1-3 or something. So it's like 33%, 30% win rate, which is not insignificant. Like when you consider, like if you go to like the EU versus NA, that score ends up being around like 37, 40% NA win rate, whereas against LMS it's like 66 or so. But if you flip that around, it's going to be like 30 to 35%. So like it's definitely in the same way that it's not unthinkable that G2 could win a game or lose a game to NA, like the probabilities of PCS beating NA should also be about as high. So like, absolutely, I think it's something that I'm very worried about.
Yeah, I think also like the win rates are not great for LMS all time against NA, but that also
Mm-hmm.
includes Worlds where they just always sucked. But at MSI, they've
True.
actually gotten out of groups like 4 times, and we've gotten out twice, I think it is, or maybe it's been 5 for them or something. Like,
Well, yeah,
it
I
is
mean,
concerning.
they're the only 5 regions to ever make it through. And this will be fun to try and do it from memory. 2015 even, they made it through, NA didn't. That was TSM. That was in the single round robin. TSM went 1-4. And EU ended up being the 4th seed, and LMS was actually like the 2nd or 3rd seed that year. 2016 was the CLG
They
year.
got in over G2.
That was G2 vacation. So they're 2 for 2 there. 2017, TSM went to MSI,
TSM
didn't make it.
Sucked.
Yeah.
Yep.
They went 4-6, lost a tiebreaker actually in that one. So they're through again. 2018 was another 4-6 year for EU and NA. TL lost a tiebreaker to Fnatic. LMS goes through. Hanabi was on that Flash Wolves team actually. 2018, or sorry, I skipped 2019. TL goes all the way to finals. Flash Wolves was 3-7. TL was 4-6. 2020,
that was the one time they didn't make it.
2020 doesn't happen. 2021 they make it through again. So like PCS is weaker than LMS. There's the region itself is not as competitive, and a lot of investment has dropped from the region. But yeah, absolutely, like the win rate is in NA's favor, but as you say, the MSI group advancement rate is spooky. It's actually really bad for NA.
Yeah, that's why like
really bad.
EG, as much as they've struggled against the top teams, they haven't really failed us yet. Like they took care of Order, they've taken care of PSG and Saigon so far, and you're like, don't just fuck one up, please.
Vulcan
for the love of
has
God.
equaled his game wins from Rumble stage compared to last year. Last year, C9 went 3-7. They're 3-3, but they got the hard teams left.
Yeah.
T1, RNG, PSG, and G2. Here's to hoping.
Yep, I believe.
But to actually talk about the actual players, I think Unified is a smurf. Unified and Kaiwing are
they're bot lane.
So good. I think Bay is like not the best player on the team. I tried to think of an easy way of saying this, but like the last game that G2 played against them, that EG played against them, this was from 2 days ago, but there was this moment in River where I believe he was on Ari or something, and he just whiffs everything from Fog, and then EG wins the fight. And I'm like, thank God Bay did that. Like, no one mentioned it because it's just one of those EG1 team fights, but it could have been bad. Could have been real bad.
Bay not being good, and then again, Juhan's not terrible, but he's also not River, where like River was legitimately one of the best junglers in the tournament. So like, even just by comparison, they are weaker than last year, I think.
Yeah.
But I think the team, despite being individually worse, they're kind of the inverse of T1, where it's like they have these great players. Why are they not looking so good? Like worse than the sum of their parts. I feel like this team almost beat RNG. They did beat G2. They know to put, instead of like skill checking with LeBlanc and like Syndra or something, you know, they're like, you get Lissandra, sir. Yeah. Like they understand their team strengths and weaknesses. So like, I do think it's scary to just like assume that like EG beats them.
Yeah. And I'm going to redo the joke here in case people didn't see it. And I know there's other people that have made this joke as well. But for anyone who said Dignitas isn't helping North America on the international stage, this team had River last year, who was better than Yuhan. So they have weakened the greatest international opposition that EG has to face. Dignitas River. Thank you. Thank you, Dignitas.
All right.
That's it.
Ending on that?
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Plan is to be back tomorrow. I will obviously, I'm not scared of sharing my COVID state. Was positive again today, but it's not affecting my spirits. But as soon as I'm negative, I'll be able to do one more episode, and then I'm going to be leaving the next morning. So there's a chance that one of these group stage episodes doesn't make it out. But thank you everyone once again for watching on stream. It's streamed on MarkZ's Twitch channel when the like Riot stream goes off, and then it's posted on the JLXP YouTube channel. So been happy with all the people that have been able to watch it and leave comments. So thank you for that, and see you next time.